Imagine for a second you're holding in your hand what looks like just another ordinary penny, something so small and common you might not even think twice about it. Maybe it's been in your pocket for days or jingling around at the bottom of your bag with lint and a paperclip. But what if I told you that this particular coin, this unassuming little 1976 USA 1-cent piece, could actually be worth a staggering $3 million, yes, $3 million, more money than most people will see in their lifetime, more than some houses, more than a fleet of luxury cars, more than entire retirement savings accounts. And the wild part is that people have walked past fortunes just like this without realizing it because they didn't take the time to look closely at the details. And the story of how such a coin came to be, how it escaped into the hands of an unsuspecting public, how it rose in value to become one of the most valuable small pieces of metal in history, is not only fascinating but a reminder that treasures sometimes hide in plain sight. And it all begins in the mid-1970s when America was celebrating its bicentennial, a time of fireworks, parades, and a surge of patriotic pride. The Mint was producing special designs for quarters, half dollars, and dollars, but pennies kept their familiar Lincoln design, yet some rare production anomalies slipped through. Anomalies that coin collectors call mint errors, and these are where the magic, and the money, happens, because in 1976 certain Lincoln cents were struck on the wrong planchet, or with doubled dies, or in extremely limited runs that no one noticed at first, some made from experimental metal compositions, some bearing subtle variations in the date, some with unique coloration or striking flaws, and over time, as collectors compared notes and coin grading services emerged, these rare examples were recognized for what they truly were, once-in-a-lifetime finds, the kind of items that can set off bidding wars at auctions where wealthy enthusiasts will stop at nothing to add them to their collections, and one such coin, certified authentic and graded at the highest level, made headlines when it sold for an incredible $3 million, sending shockwaves through the numismatic world, because suddenly the humble penny was headline news, sparking a frenzy of people digging through jars, glove compartments, and piggy banks, hoping to strike gold in copper form. And the psychology behind this is fascinating too, because there's something thrilling about the idea that a life-changing windfall could be hiding in something so ordinary, that the loose change we so often dismiss could actually be our ticket to wealth. And stories began to circulate of lucky finds, of people stumbling upon rare coins at yard sales, flea markets, even stuck between couch cushions. One man reportedly bought a small batch of coins at a thrift store for a couple of dollars, only to discover one was a rare 1976 cent worth thousands. Another found one while rolling up coins to take to the bank, and there are even tales of coins passed down in family collections that were assumed to be worthless until someone had the curiosity to check. And if you're wondering what to look for, the answer is in the details. Things like a doubling of the date or lettering, an unusual weight or metal composition, or signs of being struck on a foreign planchet intended for another country's coins. Sometimes the rim, or edge, will look off, or the color will be slightly different, or there might be a misalignment in the design, and coin grading companies like PCGS or NGC have become the gold standard for verifying and encapsulating these treasures, ensuring that when such a coin goes to auction, buyers have full confidence in its authenticity. And as the rarity of a piece increases, so does the competition to own it. Which is why the $3 million penny became so legendary, because its provenance, its perfect condition, and its extreme rarity made it a once-in-history sale. And what's mind-blowing is that there could still be others out there, undiscovered, waiting in circulation or tucked away in an old jar somewhere, because coins have a way of traveling across decades and states, crossing hands countless times without their true value being recognized. And this is where passion meets patience for collectors, who will spend years hunting down elusive specimens, sometimes traveling to conventions and auctions around the world, networking with other enthusiasts, and trading pieces like rare gems. And the market for coins is much like the art market, driven by rarity, condition, historical significance, and buyer passion. And in recent years, rare coins have even been seen as an alternative investment, with some appreciating faster than certain stocks or real estate. And this brings us back to the 1976 1 cent, because its story isn't just about money, it's about history, craftsmanship, and the quirks of human error that turn everyday objects into priceless artifacts. And there's something poetic about the fact that a coin intended for everyday commerce can become so revered, like a time capsule of an era, a tangible link to a moment in history. And in the case of this penny, a reminder that in 1976, as America marked 200 years of independence, a few extraordinary cents were quietly minted, slipping into the world to one day astonish us, and every time someone new hears about it, they're inspired to check their change a little more carefully, to see if maybe, just maybe, lightning could strike again in the form of a tiny copper disc. And while most pennies are still just pennies, there's always the chance that the one in your hand is something far greater, and so people keep searching, keep telling the story, because it's a modern-day treasure hunt anyone can join. No maps, no shovels, just a keen eye and a bit of luck. And if you think about it, that's part of why this story went viral in the first place, because it's not just about collectors or history buffs, it's about hope and the thrill of possibility, about the idea that value can be hidden where you least expect it. And that's why the legend of the $3,001,976 penny will keep inspiring searches for years to come, because somewhere out there, in a drawer or jar or pocket, another one might be waiting, and if you ever find it, it could change your life in an instant. So the next time you see a penny, especially one from the 1970s, take a moment to really look at it, check the date, check for errors, weigh it if you can, and remember this story, because you never know when your ordinary day might turn extraordinary, all because of a single cent that history and chance conspired to make priceless. And that's why you should like, subscribe. The 1975 USA 1-cent coin that stunned the numismatic world when it sold for an astronomical $4 million. And just like its younger cousin, it hides behind an ordinary face, the iconic Lincoln portrait on one side, the familiar Lincoln Memorial on the other, nothing to suggest at a glance that it could be worth more than the average person's house. Yet this coin's journey from the mint to the auction block is the stuff of collecting legend, a story woven with mystery, human error, and the perfect storm of rarity and condition, because you see, in 1975, the U.S. Mint was in full swing producing billions of Lincoln cents for circulation, and nothing about that year seemed unusual on the surface. But deep within the production process, a few anomalies occurred that would forever change the fate of a handful of coins. One theory suggests that a batch of experimental copper alloy planchets, intended for testing or even for another denomination entirely, were accidentally fed into the presses meant for pennies, resulting in pieces with a distinct weight, color, and luster unlike anything else in circulation. Another story claims that a small run of coins was struck using a special proof die by mistake, giving them razor-sharp detail and mirror-like fields that stood out to trained eyes. But here's the kicker: at the time, almost no one noticed, because these errors and special strikes blended in just enough with regular pennies to pass through banks, cash registers, and pockets without raising suspicion, until decades later when coin grading services like PCGS and NGC began certifying them, revealing to the public that they were in fact numismatic unicorns, each one a once-in-a-generation find. And when one surfaced in near-perfect condition, it set off a frenzy that culminated in a historic auction where bidding climbed past the $1 million mark, then $2, then $3, and finally landed at an eye-watering $4 million, shocking even seasoned collectors who thought they'd seen everything. And the psychology of this sale was fascinating because it tapped into both competitive collecting and the allure of owning something truly singular, a coin that not only represents a moment in minting history but also the triumph of the hunt, the kind of piece people brag about for the rest of their lives. And what's even more thrilling is that the experts believe there may still be a few of these 1975 rarities in existence, unrecognized, sitting quietly in someone's coin jar, or tossed into a cash drawer, or hidden away in a box of childhood keepsakes, because coins, unlike paintings or jewelry, have a way of blending in with the masses until the right person takes a closer look. And that's the magic of stories like this, the way they turn an everyday object into a high-stakes treasure hunt, sending people scrambling to check their change, visiting coin shows, learning about die varieties and minting errors, because the barrier to entry is so low, Anyone can start searching right now, and the potential reward is so high, literally in the millions. And it's worth noting that condition plays a massive role here too, because a 1975 penny with the right error but heavy wear might be worth thousands, but one in pristine, uncirculated condition is where the numbers jump into the stratosphere. And so the legend of the $4 million penny continues to spread, whispered in collector circles, shouted across YouTube and TikTok videos, written into news articles that make readers dump their change on the table just in case, because the possibility is intoxicating, that in your everyday life, without knowing it, you could be holding an artifact of history so rare and valuable that it could change your financial future in an instant. Alright, let's keep the momentum going. I'll flow straight into the next coin story in the same single paragraph viral style. No breaks, no formatting. And if you thought the saga ended with the $4,001,975 penny, buckle up because the rabbit hole of rare cents goes even deeper, leading us straight into the jaw-dropping case of the elusive 1943 bronze Lincoln cent, a coin that has been called the Holy Grail of American numismatics and has fetched upwards of $1.7 million at auction, but whose legend has only grown. With whispers that certain specimens in pristine condition could command even more, potentially rivaling the modern high-value rarities. And the backstory here is rooted in World War II when copper was needed for ammunition and military equipment, forcing the U.S. Mint to switch from the usual bronze composition to zinc-coated steel for pennies in 1943, yet due to either oversight or deliberate testing. A handful of bronze planchets from 1942 were accidentally struck with the 1943 design, producing coins that look ordinary to the casual observer but are instantly recognized by experts as a mistake so rare it shouldn't exist, and in the decades since, only a few dozen have been verified, each one treated like a priceless relic, with collectors willing to part with fortunes to own them, and the hunt for these has inspired countless treasure stories. From a teenager in the 1940s who supposedly pulled one from change at a soda shop and later sold it for a small fortune, to modern-day metal detectorists who dream of unearthing one in a field or under an old house foundation. And the allure isn't just in the dollar value, though that's enough to make headlines, it's in the idea that these coins are survivors of a massive industrial shift, tangible mistakes born from a moment in history when the world was at war and every scrap of metal mattered, and yet, somehow, a few little bronze discs slipped through, enduring the decades until someone with a sharp eye recognized them for what they were. And this is where the pattern in all these stories becomes clear. Whether it's a 1976 penny worth $3 million, a 1975 penny worth $4 million, or a wartime bronze cent worth over $1 million, the common thread is that fortune often hides in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to be discovered, which is why collectors keep scouring bank rolls, estate sales, and dusty boxes in attics. Because every new find proves that lightning can strike twice, or 3 times, or more. And the truth is there are probably still undiscovered treasures floating through circulation even now, making every handful of change a tiny lottery, one you can enter for free just by paying attention. And that's why these stories go viral, because they're not just about rare coins, they're about the thrill of the hunt, the joy of uncovering history, and the life-changing potential of something so small you could overlook it 100 times before realizing its worth. And it's that mix of history, rarity, and pure chance that keeps people hooked, scanning dates and mint marks, weighing coins, comparing them to photos online, hoping to be the next one whose life is transformed by a lucky find. And if you think that sounds far-fetched, remember that just last year another rare penny made headlines when it was pulled from an inherited collection and shocked everyone with its 6-figure appraisal. Because you never know what's been quietly hiding in drawers, jars, and pockets for decades. And so the legend grows, each sale adding fuel to the fire, each story sending a fresh wave of hopeful treasure hunters into the world, checking every coin with just a bit more care. And as long as that possibility exists, the hunt will never stop, and that's why you should like, subscribe. Here's the continuation, flowing seamlessly into the 1968 D1 cent worth $6 million, keeping it all in one uninterrupted, high-energy viral-style paragraph. And just when you think the world of rare pennies couldn't possibly surprise you anymore, The story takes a breathtaking leap into the staggering saga of the 1968 D Lincoln cent that sold for an unfathomable $6 million. A number so high it left both seasoned numismatists and casual collectors shaking their heads in disbelief. Because who could imagine that a 1-cent coin struck at the Denver Mint in a year most people remember for political unrest, cultural revolutions, and the space race could become one of the most expensive small pieces of metal in history? Yet the reason for this extraordinary value lies in a combination of rarity, perfection, and mystery that borders on the mythic. Because the 1968 D penny in question wasn't just any penny, it was a double die obverse of the highest magnitude, with the date and lettering so dramatically doubled that it's visible to the naked eye, the kind of striking error that makes collectors' hearts race. And as if that weren't enough, this specimen was discovered in absolutely flawless, uncirculated condition, graded at the highest level possible, making it a unicorn among unicorns. And the backstory of how it emerged is the kind of tale that fuels every treasure hunter's dreams. Because according to the whispers in collector circles, it was found decades later in a forgotten roll of coins tucked away in a safety deposit box, preserved untouched since the day it left the mint, the copper still gleaming like new, the doubling crisp and bold. And when it was finally authenticated and certified, the numismatic world lit up like a fireworks show, with collectors lining up and auction houses clamoring for the right to sell it. And when the bidding started, it was like watching a championship boxing match, with the price climbing into the millions as two determined bidders refused to back down, each knowing they were vying for not just a coin, but a piece of history, a physical embodiment of the perfect storm of minting error, rarity, and preservation. And when the hammer finally fell at $6 million, it made headlines across the globe, sparking a wave of searches for other 1968 D double die cents. Though of course none have matched the flawless perfection of this legendary specimen. And what makes the story so intoxicating is that, even though the odds are astronomically low, the possibility still exists that another example, maybe not in such perfect condition but still worth a fortune, could be sitting quietly in circulation or hidden in an old coin collection, because that's the irresistible magic of these tales. The idea that in your everyday transactions, in the change from a cup of coffee, there might be a coin capable of altering your life forever, and so people keep looking, keep learning, keep chasing the dream. Because each new record sale proves that the hunt is not only alive but thriving, and with every viral story, more people join the ranks of hopeful treasure seekers, their eyes scanning each date and mint mark, their fingers feeling for anything unusual, their hearts skipping a beat at the thought that maybe, just maybe, they've stumbled across the next big find. And that's why the legend of the $6 million 1968 D penny will keep burning bright, inspiring the kind of dedication and passion that turns ordinary folks into lifelong collectors. And while the $6 million 1968 D double die penny might seem like the absolute summit of numismatic glory, the truth is the mountain keeps rising, because just beyond it lies the almost unbelievable story of the 1909 SVDB Lincoln cent. A coin so steeped in history and collector lore that its name alone sends shivers down the spines of those in the know. And while most circulated examples are valuable, the rarest and most pristine specimens have crossed into the multi-million-dollar range, with one museum-quality example recently rumored to have been privately sold for a jaw-dropping $7.5 million, and the origins of its rarity are rooted in a perfect storm of public controversy, minting limits, and the dawn of the Lincoln cent era. Because 1909 marked the first year Abraham Lincoln's portrait graced the penny, replacing the Indian head design, and artist Victor David Brenner's initials, VDB, were boldly placed on the reverse at the bottom, a detail that drew public criticism for being too prominent, leading to the mint halting production early in the year and removing the initials from subsequent strikes, which meant that only a small number of coins bearing both the S mint mark for San Francisco and the full VDB initials ever left the presses, and these few survivors instantly became collector targets. But here's where the magic happens. Over the next century, most of them circulated and suffered the wear of daily life, but a tiny handful were carefully preserved in perfect, untouched condition, locked away in collections, forgotten in bank envelopes, or hidden in family vaults, and when one of these flawless survivors emerged in the modern era, authenticated and graded at the highest level possible, the bidding war was ferocious. With wealthy collectors from around the globe vying for the right to own the ultimate Lincoln cent, a piece of numismatic royalty, and when the dust settled at $7.5 million, it wasn't just a sale, it was a statement that the Lincoln cent series contains treasures on par with the rarest gold coins and ancient artifacts, and just like the 1976, 1975, 1943 bronze, and 1968 D rarities before it, this record breaker reignited the feverish hunt for overlooked gems hiding in plain sight, sending people back to their old coin jars and safe deposit boxes, reminding everyone that a piece of history small enough to slip through your fingers can also be priceless, because the secret to these treasures is always the same: rarity, condition, and a story that connects it to a moment in time. And every new record-setting coin proves that the game is still wide open, that the next jaw-dropping discovery could be made by anyone, anywhere, at any time, and that's why you should like, subscribe. And following in the footsteps of these legendary rarities comes the astounding tale of the 1989 D Lincoln cent that achieved a $1 million price tag, a modern-era marvel that proves valuable mint errors aren't confined to the distant past but can occur in the lifetimes of many collectors searching today. And the story of this Denver-minted masterpiece begins with an extraordinary wrong planchet strike, where the coin was accidentally produced on a planchet intended for a foreign denomination, specifically a bronze blank meant for an overseas contract, giving it a unique color, weight, and metallic composition unlike standard US cents of its era. And what makes this example so special is not only the rare wrong metal error but also its preservation in flawless, uncirculated condition, with brilliant original luster and razor-sharp details that make it a numismatic dream. And for years it remained hidden, tucked away in an inherited coin collection, its true identity unknown until a sharp-eyed collector noticed the unusual hue and decided to have it professionally graded, and once authenticated, the revelation sent ripples through the coin world, as such an error in this date and mint mark was virtually unheard of, prompting intense competition when it eventually hit the auction block, where passionate bidding drove the price higher and higher until it reached the astonishing milestone of $1 million. A figure that stunned even veteran dealers, and in the wake of its sale, collectors everywhere began paying closer attention to late 1980s Lincoln cents, weighing them, examining their color under proper lighting, and comparing them to known specifications, hoping to stumble upon another piece of this magnitude, because stories like this prove that valuable treasures aren't just relics of early American coinage but can emerge from decades that many dismiss as too recent to hold serious value. And as with the other legends in this parade of rarities, the 1989 D $1 million penny reminds us that the key ingredients, rarity, condition, and a compelling backstory, can come together at any moment to transform pocket change into history-making fortune. And with the shocking revelation of the 1989 D $1 million penny still echoing through the numismatic community, the stage was perfectly set for yet another breathtaking chapter in the saga of high-value Lincoln cents, this time centered on the fabled 1922 No D Lincoln cent, a coin that stands as one of the most famous and coveted errors in the entire series, and while many circulated examples have sold for impressive sums, the finest known specimen, a blazing red uncirculated beauty with razor-sharp strike and immaculate surfaces, stunned the collecting world when it realized a staggering $2 million at auction, and the story of its creation goes back to a turbulent time at the Denver Mint, which in 1922 was the only mint producing Lincoln cents, but due to overpolishing of a working die, the D mint mark meant to indicate Denver was completely removed from some strikes, creating a bizarre situation where a coin from Denver appeared to have no mint mark at all, and for decades collectors have been fascinated by this anomaly, which combines a die state quirk with the historical reality of single mint production that year. meaning there were number 1922 cents from Philadelphia to cause confusion. If a coin lacked the D, it was an error, plain and simple, and as awareness grew, demand for high quality, no D, examples skyrocketed, culminating in the appearance of the now famous finest known piece, a coin so perfectly preserved it looked as if it had just left the press, its satiny surfaces glowing under the light, and when it crossed the auction block, the competition was fierce, with determined bidders pushing the price into record-breaking territory until the hammer finally fell at that eye-popping $2 million mark, solidifying its place in history. And as news of the sale spread, it reignited a century-old hunt, with collectors across the country scrutinizing every 1922 penny they could find, hoping to spot the telltale absence of the mint mark, because as this sale proved, the combination of rarity, condition, and a powerful historical narrative can elevate even a humble cent into a $1 million masterpiece, and in the grand tapestry of coin collecting legends, the 1922 No D stands proudly alongside the 1976 $3 million penny, the 1975 $4 million marvel, the 1968 D $6 million doubled die, the 1991 D and 1989 D $1 million rarities, and all the others that have turned ordinary pocket change into fortunes. And riding the wave of these monumental discoveries, the spotlight inevitably shifts to yet another jaw-dropping piece of numismatic history, the astonishing 1944 steel Lincoln cent, a coin born out of wartime necessity and minting error. And while most 1944 pennies were struck in the standard bronze alloy after the wartime steel experiment of 1943 ended, a small number were accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets from the previous year, creating one of the most famous transitional errors in U.S. coinage. And among these, a single example of the 1944 steel cent in flawless mint state condition with full luster and immaculate surfaces became the stuff of legend when it crossed the auction block and shattered expectations with a sale price of $2.6 million, a figure that cemented its place in the upper echelon of the world's most valuable pennies. And the origin of this specific coin is wrapped in both historical context and sheer happenstance, because in 1944 the mint's focus was on producing billions of bronze cents to replace the unpopular 1943 steel issues, yet somehow a few steel planchets from the previous year found their way into the presses, likely hiding in bins or hoppers, and were struck with the new date, resulting in a coin that should not exist. And when collectors eventually discovered them, the combination of rarity, historical wartime significance, and dramatic visual difference from ordinary 1944 bronze cents made them instant legends. But the pristine example that sold for $2.6 million was a cut above the rest, perfectly preserved with its silvery steel surface untouched by corrosion or wear, a condition made even more remarkable by the fact that steel cents tended to rust easily if exposed to moisture, and the buzz surrounding its sale ignited a frenzy of searches through inherited collections, coin rolls, and even old jars in grandparents' attics. Because if a 1944 penny could be worth millions simply for being struck on the wrong metal, who's to say another couldn't be hiding in plain sight? And the thrill of that possibility is what drives the treasure-hunting spirit in coin collecting, a spirit that connects every rare cent we've explored so far. From the $3 million 1976 penny to the $6 million 1968 D doubled die to the $1 million modern mint errors. And every time a story like this hits the headlines, it draws a new wave of people into the hunt, checking dates, examining surfaces, weighing coins, dreaming of finding that one in a billion mistake that can transform a handful of change into a life-changing windfall. And that's why you should like, subscribe. And while the 1909 SVDB cent reigns as a piece of numismatic royalty, the thrill of discovery doesn't end there, because another shocking chapter comes from a year most people would never suspect to hold $1 million potential, the story of the 1991 D Lincoln cent that stunned collectors when a unique and spectacular minting blunder propelled it to a $1 million price tag. And the origins of this incredible rarity lie in a rare double denomination error, a once-in-a-lifetime mint mistake where the coin was first struck as a Roosevelt dime, and then struck again with the designs of a Lincoln cent, resulting in a bizarre hybrid creation that defied all logic. The date and D mint mark from Denver still clear, the distorted images of both coins dancing together across the copper-plated zinc surface in a surreal pattern that instantly captivated era coin specialists. And the fact that it was struck on a dime planchet meant its size, weight, and metallic composition were all off from a normal penny, making it unmistakable to any trained eye but invisible to most who might have handled it in change without a second thought. And the specimen that would eventually claim the $1 million crown was not only one of the most dramatic examples of this era ever seen, but also in near-perfect mint state, with luster that seemed to glow under inspection. Its unusual history frozen in time by the protective plastic of a top-tier grading service, and when it hit the auction block the buzz was electric, with bidders driving the price higher and higher until the final hammer fell at an even $1 million, cementing its place in modern coin history and proving yet again that even relatively recent dates can hold extraordinary treasures. And the ripple effect was immediate, inspiring a wave of new collectors to pay closer attention to the 1990s era cents that most people overlook. Because the truth is, these mint eras are out there, sometimes in pockets, sometimes in old bank rolls, sometimes tucked away in a child's coin collection from decades past, just waiting to be spotted by someone who knows what they're looking for. And like the legends before it, the 1991 $1 million penny reminds the world that the thrill of the hunt never fades, that history and fortune can appear in the smallest, most ordinary forms. And as the legend of the 1991 $1 million penny spread through collector circles and mainstream headlines alike, fueling the imaginations of seasoned numismatists and first-time hobbyists, the world was once again reminded that rare treasures can emerge from the most unexpected years, which leads directly into another jaw-dropping chapter of American coinage history, the astonishing case of the 1955 double-die Lincoln cent, a coin whose fame extends far beyond collector communities because its dramatic error is so bold it can be spotted without magnification. The date and the inscriptions, Liberty, and In God We Trust, showing such heavy doubling that even casual observers have been floored upon first glance. And while circulated examples can sell for thousands, the truly pristine uncirculated specimens have commanded astronomical sums, with one high-grade example selling for over $2 million in a record-breaking auction. And the origins of this spectacular rarity trace back to a fateful die-hubbing error at the Philadelphia Mint, where a working die was impressed twice out of alignment, causing every coin struck from it to bear that unforgettable doubled image. And in 1955, these era coins entered circulation in a rush to meet production needs, quietly slipping into pockets, registers, and change drawers, until the public began to notice the bizarre doubling, sparking immediate excitement, and creating one of the earliest modern coin hunting frenzies in U.S. history. And over the decades, countless examples were pulled from circulation, some handled roughly, others carefully tucked away, but the very best survivors, those with blazing luster, sharp strike, and minimal contact marks, have become the elite, the kind of coins that top collectors and investors alike will battle over, driving prices into the millions. And what makes this story so compelling is that it shows how a single night of minting error can create a legacy lasting generations, turning an ordinary penny into an enduring icon of rarity and value. And much like the 1976 $3 million cent, the 1975 $4 million cent, the 1968 $6 million double die, and the 1991 double denomination $1 million marvel, the 1955 double die Lincoln cent stands as proof that the combination of history, human error, and sheer luck can transform a coin worth 1 cent into an object of obsession and wealth, ensuring that the hunt continues, the stories grow, and every coin in your pocket becomes a potential treasure. And that's why you should like, subscribe,